Hey, happy Tuesday, No Brushers. It is episode 22 of No Brush Required, and my name's Tamara Grand. I'm going to grab my co-host, Barb Reed, and we're going to get going. Where are you, Barb? There we go.
What happened? I can't. I'm going to go and come back.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Oh boy, I don't know what's going on with our sound today. My sound's up. Everything's normal. You can't hear me. We can't hear Barb. I hear a yes now. Now you can hear me. Okay, so it was my AirPods that were whatever. I got a new computer yesterday, and trying to sync it with my phone and my wearables has been crazy. So let's get Barb back on here now. This is how we fly, right? Makes it all the more exciting and more interesting for our guests because now you can hear me, right?
I can hear you. That was freaky. I could hear myself amplified, and then I couldn't hear you. I could see your lips moving, and don't do that again.
No, I was just explaining. I just got my new MacBook yesterday, and I've been setting it up and transferring it, and I think that there's a technology issue. I think I've interrupted something because you know how when you move things over, it asks you for your passwords for everything at like a cajillion times, and things don't necessarily talk to each other as easily as you'd like them to. So, hey, we're here. That means my family will be able to hear you today.
Woo!
Usually they're used to me sitting here. They think I'm talking to myself. So, uh-oh, she stopped again. What is that about? What is our problem today?
No, he was just calling me. Sorry. He's at the, you know what? Okay, so this may or may not be of interest. He's at the grocery store.
Okay.
And I had texted him that the new bubbly flavors I had heard were coming out. So I'm 100% sure that's why he's calling.
Got it. Oh, well.
So this is huge news.
Roman, get all the bubbly flavors. That's the answer to the question.
He will remember that we're in our live call now. I'm sure.
Awesome. All right, Pritty's here. We've had lots of people join in to listen to us try to figure out what our sound issues are. Thanks, guys, for hanging around. If you're catching us on the replay, this is episode 22 of No Brush Required, and myself, Tamara Grand, and Barbara Reed. We co-host every week, and we chat with artist friends. Some we know well, some we just get to know along with you guys while we're live. We save these every week so you can watch to your heart's content and come back and catch all of our gaffes. And
oh my gosh, we could do like a whole gaffes episode.
We could.
If we knew how to do that. We actually could string together all the silliness.
Exactly. So this week we have another guest. Last week we had a wonderful guest. We had a great time. We drank whiskey. Gosh. We're not drinking whiskey this week.
No.
My painting session was quite free that afternoon.
I bet it was.
A little bit of whiskey. But we are happy to welcome our friend, Rena Diana, on today. And I'm just going to grab her. hopefully she's waiting in the waiting room. If not, I will get her here. Hopefully we'll get her here. Rena's going to feel really great now because we've made all the goofs this morning.
Yeah.
And she's not going to make any goofs at all.
Oh, heck no. We get that out of the way. Hey, Rena.
Hi, Rena.
Hi. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I know Rena from, I think, Louise Fletcher's Find Your Joy course, perhaps. Is that where we first met, Rena?
And Connected Artist Club.
And Connected
with Alice
Artist.
Sheridan.
Yes. And Rena stuck out to me because she was always in the group providing lots of great comments and support. And as a really new artist, when I joined Louise's class, it was so nice to have somebody there who was a cheerleader and so kind and so generous with, the things that she had to say and supporting other people in the group. So something about her we clicked, didn't we, Rena?
We did click.
We really did. And we've just kept in touch over time online. And I was excited to have her on because I love her paintings. I love the way she works. I love her sketchbooks and all of that. So have you guys met before, Barb and Rena?
Only on Instagram.
Yeah, I followed Barb before I just started following you. I've probably been following you a couple years now. So This feels like we're just sitting in a room having a great conversation.
Yeah, it sure does. Now, Rena, where are you? Where do you actually live?
I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, where I am half the year. And then the other half of the year, I'm up on Lake Champlain in Vermont.
Oh, nice.
And that's a big influence in your work.
It is, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, so for those of you guys who don't know Rena, I'm sure everybody does, but the thing that stands out most for me about your work is your rock paintings and the way you like to combine all those incredible layers to create these really beautiful, deeply structured paintings. And I'm trying to think, where are my cards? I have some of your art cards, but I can't reach them. So I'm afraid I might knock over my whole
Don't
desktop.
do it. Resist.
Yeah, don't move. Tamara, just stay right where you are. Don't move.
Exactly.
Don't touch. Don't move. Don't breathe. Okay.
Nothing.
That's not a problem.
I felt a little bit like I was in a NASA space center, with the countdown.
Yes.
Except it wouldn't happen in NASA this way. I mean, I think when they get to one, you're supposed to actually start. And I'm like, oh, we're just gonna hang back here and that spaceship's gonna fly at some point.
At some point.
Yes. We call it our green room. You're in there eating the red M&Ms while we just do our quick tech check and get things going.
Happy to be here.
Well, so we usually start by we've introduced you, told everybody where we've met you from, and I think you got tons of hearts. So I think lots of people who know you from Instagram and from your various online groups and your website have probably been giving hearts and saying hello. So we usually just ask you to give us a little bit of history about where you started out, and if it's a long one, tell us the highlights.
I'll do highlights. The history's long, but I'll do highlights. I did want to thank you, Barbara and Tamara, for giving me this opportunity, and also to the entire community online right now on Instagram. It's just been such a nurturing and nourishing community. I really want to send a shout out and thanks to Louise Fletcher, if she's here, Alice Sheridan, I think she's on, and also mention Nick Wilton and Art to Life, which I think many of us on this call have in common. So I just wanted to start by saying that the Instagram community, even with all its flukes, with all the things we're learning about all the little snafus, it's really a wonderful place. So I'll give I did take little notes. And I would say I'm in the third act of my life at this point. And act one is childhood. And I had an aunt who was a music teacher and very artistic, and a cousin who actually made a life of being an artist as a set designer and costume designer at Dartmouth College, actually. Other than that, no art. And in fact, I just polled all my high school friends. I grew up in the Deep South, you probably can tell. And I said, did we have any art classes? And the answer was no. All we remember were coloring books and those mimeograph sheets with the terrible smell that you had to roll through the machine. And that was it. And so I have one memory of fourth grade. Our teacher, if we finished up our work early, we got to go work on a mural on the side of the classroom. And so I worked as fast as I possibly could and loved doing that. But no art, really. Went to college, and I've always loved to write, and I love to read. And I majored in English, but took art in an academic way there, not studio art. I took art history. And as soon as I got out, instead of having to read assigned books finally, as soon as I graduated, I read, the first thing I read was a biography of Cezanne, who is an artist whom I just worship and admire. You can probably see his influence in my work, although I would certainly feel I'm not in his camp even close, but I like the way he strips down his art to basic structure and works in large planes of color. And so that interest was always there, I should say. And then early on, my career's been in education. I actually did teach art at a gallery in Middlebury, Vermont, and to the local elementary school children. And what I focused on was batik, but I painted on the batik with wax. I actually painted the images on. And one of my first ones was a moon reflection over the mountain you've heard me mention, Split Rock Mountain on Lake Champlain. Well, that was 1971, so it's a long time ago. That thread runs deep in me. Okay, and then I went to graduate school. And you know, when you're 22 years old, you actually do have all the answers, and you certainly can change the world. And I was very idealistic and I still am, actually. I still have the same beliefs. But I actually, my thesis in graduate school was that art should be the center of the curriculum. Period.
I love that.
It just should, because it's got everything. It has everything. And that's a whole nother podcast. But all right, Act 2, got married, have 3 wonderful, wonderful children. They are grown now. My career in education continued. I was a busy mom and teacher and education administrator. I focused on middle school girls. I kept taking classes, watercolor, pen and ink, you know, just got in my art when I could, got more into the studio aspect of it, did a lot of projects with my kids. So that's Act 2, and that's over. And then in 2008, I retired and had an opportunity through my husband's work to live in just amazing places, all related to his work. On the Arabian Gulf, in China, in Mongolia, and with a lot of traveling throughout. And it was like, there's a Rumi quote that I love that says, when you do something you love, you feel a river running through you. And it's like the dam broke in me or something. I loved being a mom. I still do. I loved my career, but there was such a hunger in me to create and to paint and to make that I took art classes everywhere. I had an Iraqi teacher, I had a Chinese watercolor teacher. Wherever we were, I just went online to where are the classes, where's the art? Boom. Then we moved to New York City and lived there 5 years. And that is where I went in 500% into just all I did. Classes, Art Students League. Met a group of wonderful other mixed media artists, and we formed a group called Next Act Art. I'm pretty sure quite a few of them are on this call, and I send out my toast to them. Most of them aren't really active on Instagram, but we have done shows together. We meet twice a month. We first started in 2015. It has just been wonderful to have them as a support group, and we've got a show coming up actually in April in New York.
Are you back to meeting? Are you back to meeting in person? Are you back to meeting in person now after COVID?
It will be in person. Whether there or not there'll be an opening, that would be on March the 24th. I'll post about it. Is up in the air. But anyway, Act 3, here I am. And as I've already mentioned, the online classes, particularly during the pandemic, Connected Artists Club has helped me so much in the business of art. Art Tribe and anything with Nick Wilton. I've also studied with Mark Eames. I feel like I'm in graduate school when I'm with Mark Eames. Yeah. It's like I get all my notebooks and I've got all my, it is like you have to hang on every word, but I've learned so much from him, Louis Noble, Karen Stamper. Yeah. So that's my art background.
Right. You've hit all the big ones.
Yeah.
Every single person you've mentioned. And you're right about Mark Eames. I feel like I'm in a university setting when I do his workshops.
Yeah.
Online. He's a prof. He's like a prof.
And I have so many notebooks. I've done journals all my life, and they're all over the place. And I really do get a lot from them. So they're a big spark in my work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Wow. I feel like all these online opportunities we have now, I don't know what it used to be like in the art world because I'm very new to this. I've only started painting 3 or 4 years ago. And lockdown has actually been a great opportunity to take all these courses and experience lots of different tutors and instructors. And I kind of think of this as a self-directed MFA, which is kind of what you're doing as well, right?
Exactly. Oh, it's so much fun. And I've had to learn, I did just finish reading that book, Essentialism, that Louise Fletcher mentioned at a good time for me to read it because, especially if you weren't considered an artist by your adult friends, they think, they're beginning to understand that what you're doing is very serious to you. But I have found that I do have to say no, which is a lot of the theme of that book, much, regularly so that I can structure and I'll say, sorry, I can't join you. I'm taking a class from 10 to 12.
Right.
Or I need an art day because I've got some deadlines. I just find that I'm much more comfortable doing that now than I used to be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's a hard thing, especially if you have a home studio, because there's so many other things that can pull at you.
Yeah. That's true.
Finding that balance. There are courses, you literally could be busy from 9 to 5 every day doing coursework and then the follow-up to the coursework. So it is a fine balance. Do you really focus on one course at a time, or do you kind of multitask?
Oh no, I'm multitasker. I am definitely taking more than one course at a time, but so many of them are recorded. For example, Mark's class, I started it in the summer, his language of design. Then I said to myself, I really do want to focus on this. So I watched the recorded part and I just did it 5 days a week. I just threw myself into it. But maybe I'm in a mood. I need a business tip. I need to get in and get some inspiration from Alice on her hub and, think about my website. So I think it's just go with the flow of what I'm needing at that time.
Absolutely. And do you find when you take courses do you hold it to yourself to finish everything that you start, or are you comfortable picking and choosing and saying, this was great, I signed up for it, I did some of it, and now something else has caught my attention, I'm moving on?
Well, fortunately, because these are recorded, we can do that.
True.
Yes.
And so yes, I do not make myself, do things. For example, I'm going to be taking Creative Visionary Program for the 3rd time. I won't do all the exercises. I'll just have the computer on in my studio and listening to Nick's wonderful voice and his wonderful team of all those people that we feel like we know. We feel like they're our friends. And I'll be working on my own stuff. Yeah. But it's still, I'm taking it in. Other times I've got too many words in my head. So I really have to listen to music. And we talked about that a little bit, Tamara, when we talked about my going on the show about the avoidance tactics.
Yes.
It's like the blank page, the blank easel. And I'm fascinated by the whole creative process because it's what we want to do. It's like being on the diving board, especially a high diving board. You want to get in that water. You love to swim, but there's a little moment where you're saying, oops, I have to dive off this diving board first. But we want to do it. And I think the same thing happens with the writer's block and with painter's block. We come up with all even productive things to do to keep us from getting in there, rolling up our sleeves and working. And that's where I am right now. I told you my challenge is to not take on any more challenges.
Right.
That's it. My word for this year is lighten. I need to produce art. I need to get my art. I need to produce a lot more art right now, which means I'm pulling it in so that I'm having a lot of solitude right now.
Good.
So how do you get past that? Do you have any tactics for getting past that procrastination point? Anything that works for you?
Yeah, I think they're the same that many of us have discussed on our various threads. Journaling and just playing in my journals always helps me. Sometimes I'm just showing, this is a reflections journal. I mean, sometimes I just literally go through my notes I just go through my notes,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll get a little spark. I sometimes also just do works on paper instead of on a stretch canvas or a wood panel, just because it feels like I can work faster. So there are things I do. Yeah.
What did that? Oh, Alice says, keep it clean, streamline. There's a point at which you don't need to learn, you need to do, and then learn from your work. I totally believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why my word this year, my guiding principle is hashtag JOMO, joy of missing out. Because last year I took on too many things because I was afraid of missing out. And then I didn't actually get everything I really needed to do for my own art practice done.
Right. Yeah, and it really is a solitary endeavor. You really have to get into your own head. You I think sometimes the fun, for me, Instagram's fun. I love to look at everybody's art, but I do put it away because guess what? I need to look at my own art right now.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah, and it takes time for things to integrate, right? So we learn something new and we don't immediately translate that into our work. It kind of has to find its way in. And sometimes it has to sit in my head for a long time, and I have to be exposed to the same idea repeatedly before it actually starts to emerge in what I'm working on.
Right. That's absolutely true. I've got 22 panels going in my studio right now, from large to little. And someone yesterday on Instagram said this great phrase about some of them are sulking in the corner. And I love that phrase because it's like sometimes I'll be so annoyed with one that I actually turn it around so I can't see it. I'm just so, it's like you just aren't working. I'm having a fight with you. I just can't even look at you for a while. Other ones, they're sort of getting past the messy stage shock, look at them out of the corner of my eye. And I think we all do that. I think it's just part of that process. But you really do have to be in you got to get in your own head. There's a lot of inner work that needs to happen. And you can only do that alone. You can't talk about your inner work all the time with someone else. You have to just get in there and do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the old ebb and flow of creating. I know for myself, over the Christmas break, I probably took 4 weeks off, and I thought, oh, this is going to be brutal to get back into. But then you just start doing, as you say, you just do. You dive in, you get off that high tower, and you jump. And sometimes I'll do this even on a day when I'm thinking, yeah, maybe I don't want to. I'll get my body to make its way over to my little studio nook and just start what my brain is coming up with. Oh, you got to do the laundry. But the body is actually walking me over here. And that seems to work.
Yeah. I like David's comment that you have to sometimes sneak up on it, kind of give it a side eye and kind of come around the corner. Don't let it see you coming.
Yeah. And we in our various conversations that we have as artists have, like everyone does, we've got our little monkey mind, the little inner critic that I actually have a little icon, and I think of this little horrible little creature that's like nitpicking at me. And then over here is some little heavenly something, like a little light around her. And sometimes when I'm really giving myself a hard time, I just look at that little guy and say, get the hell out of here.
Yes. Lick it off your shoulder, right?
Exactly. That all the Buddhist notion of just being gentle with yourself and kind with yourself, because we give ourselves a hard time. All of us do, as have artists since the beginning of time. Yeah.
Huh.
I think it's always good to remember that even when we're having a bad day and we're putting our work out there, there's a lot of people who aren't creating and aren't putting their work out there. So you kind of have to give yourself a little pat on the back for that.
Absolutely. All the time. That's right. And that's why the communities are good.
Absolutely. And that is one of the beautiful things about online right now, for sure. And you're right. What did we do before this? I don't even remember, because like you, Tamara, I'm pretty new to this gig, like 3 years when social media was important. But what did people do? I guess get together and talk, have coffee, and paint together and work together.
Yeah, I do miss the in-person working together. This group I mentioned, by the way, Next Act Art, they do have a website. It's all one word, Next Act Art. And we realized when we were together as a group that we were spending an awful lot of time talking about all the details and the logistics of the shows we were in. And we needed to have fun together and make things together, almost like an old-fashioned sewing quilt bee.
Yes.
So once a month, that's what we do.
Love
You know,
that.
no business, just make something. And I work on it's in New York, so I go up by train. They're live now. We can do it live again, and take the concertina sketchbooks. But the being together in person is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I'm really craving doing an in-person workshop this year. The online stuff has been great, but I'm zoomed out. I really want to have people working at the table next to me, the easel next to me. Ideally, it's going to be like in Mexico or someplace warm, so I can have a trip. Because I haven't really got that around me. I haven't connected with other artists in my community, a few of them, but not like in a group setting to do things together, probably because I'm kind of new to this.
Well, they're coming, you know, they are coming. You might know, I haven't mentioned it really online, but you might know Tamara because you're friends with Lisa Woodward. But so another artist who's been a big influence on me is Jane Davies. I think she's a phenomenal teacher. She's an energizer bunny. She lives in Vermont, and I've gotten to know her, but I took 2 workshops with her actually in Oregon because one of our daughters lives out in Oregon. She is doing a workshop in Mexico live in March, and I am going. Hopefully. It's on for now. So you'll see a lot of what comes out of that on Instagram for sure. I'll post it.
Yeah, I really wanted to do the Art to Life one in Mallorca before Christmas. I saw all the work that came out of that. Plus, I'm a Rafa Nadal tennis fan, so I was kind of hoping if I went, maybe I'd run into Rafa.
I know, he won. I got to see him play in Doha, in Qatar. We lived in Qatar.
Yes.
And I just kept my camera on him. I mean, he is absolutely everything you think. But anyway, thank goodness he won. That was really emotional.
5.5 hours on my couch on Sunday morning.
Oh yeah.
Lots to celebrate there.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. So what's coming up next? You have this show coming up, and what else have you got on for this year?
Well, not much. I have some personal goals. I mean, I've got the show. I'm working on one large piece for that. I'm working on 2 different series that I'm about to do a release of those, hopefully before I leave in Mexico. I'm taking it a little bit slowly. I'm trying to put together a solo show, and that's just taking some investigating and preparing in a very professional way. So nothing specific beyond that. Just painting and learning as I go.
I have a question for you, since you've done a number of these kind of destination workshops. What do you take with you? Like what, just out of curiosity?
Your bathing suit.
Aside from
where I'm going. Well, they always send a supply list.
Okay.
And, in my experience, it's probably more supplies than you need. I try not to go overboard, but they send a supply list, and I just pack it and take it. I probably, like all of us, have more supplies than I could probably give a third or a half of what's in my studio to some art school, and I probably should, because I don't use it all. But that's the joy of it, right? It's so much fun to try new materials.
And sometimes new materials you can shop for in your own studio.
That's true.
You've got something. And
that's true. I actually have a good friend who says she went shopping in her closet.
Yeah. For sure.
Which is always a good idea.
Oh, that's great. If anybody has any comments for Rena, the easiest way is if you type it into the comments sticker box at the bottom. See, there's a little question mark right under Rena's chin, and then I can catch them and pull them up on screen. If you want to type it into the normal comments box, that's fine too. Just sometimes they start flying by and I can't grab them all before they disappear. What else? I had something else I wanted to ask you, but it's not coming to me right now. Barb, did you?
No, I was in your website looking at your gorgeous pieces. You have that Sidewalk inspired series that you did from New York City, right? I went to school in New York, so any stories about New York City, it's like that is a wonderful place to paint and create.
It is. I miss it. I get up there as often as possible. My husband grew up there. One of our daughters actually lives in New York, so I get up there as often as I can. But it really is so stimulating in the best of ways for anyone who really loves art. And I may do more of the Sidewalk series. I haven't even really put them in my shop. They're on my website, which I've just added a shop to. And that, speaking of when you were asking me, Tamara, about what I'm doing this year, I need to get more art into my shop.
Oh, good.
You know,
Where's the
so
goal?
that's really my focus. And get my newsletter out more regularly.
I love reading your newsletter.
Well, thank you, but I have been dragging my heels. I think I started it last spring, and I've really only done 4 or 5, and now I'm holding myself accountable to doing 1 a month. And again, I got encouragement from Alice on that one. Just, you know, doesn't need to be some serious scholarly treatise. You know, just say something.
I am here. Good to see
That's
you.
right. Here's what I'm doing.
Hey, I see a question here from Pause Space. I'm not sure of first name. How do you reconnect to your art when feeling low motivation, pressure, or disconnect? That's a good question.
That is a good question. I think for me, I'd love to hear what you have to say, Tamara, and I'd love to hear what you have to say, Barbara, because you two are so high energy. I'm always inspired by the two of you. But for me, I think it's writing about it, what's going on, taking walks, thinking about it, and finding that as soon as I sit down and make something, draw something, I feel much better.
Yes.
Yeah.
We know it makes us feel better, right?
Yeah.
So that hesitancy, whatever it is, it's hard to explain, right?
Right. It is.
I find that I need a little shot of something external. Like I need to go to the local gallery. There's a small gallery. I live in a village town called Port Moody. We have a local art gallery that's easy to go in. It's free. It's quite small, but just, you know, you pop in for 15 minutes and you get a little bit of recharge. Or sometimes online, looking at other people's art online can be a motivator as well. It's a double-edged sword because too much, and then I can get stuck and
discouraged.
Keep me from producing. But sometimes seeing what other people are doing, or reading an uplifting newsletter. Somebody has written about their process and what they've discovered this month, and I'm like, hey, that's exciting for me. I like to read the words and see those ideas, and so I need the external to help sometimes to help me if I'm feeling a little low, or I've got that I call it procrastinating.
Procrastinating.
Some way to, or read a book if you've got a nice new like I bought both David Mankin and Louise Fletcher's art books that came out this past year, and just to scroll through a few pages of that and read a little bit of the text is quite inspiring, and will often make me want to come back into the studio. So
I agree, the reading, but sometimes, listening to podcasts, of course, we all art juice, but I like Nick's now, and he was doing an interview with Rob Zott, and I actually listened to it twice. I got such a kick out of listening to the two of them talk. They had not met each other.
Really?
And they were so honest about how frustrated and afraid they get and how blocked they sometimes get. That helps to hear, because then you realize, oh, this is part of the process. This is part of the growth. This is what's happening. And so that helps me.
I listened to that as well, and what my big take home was I couldn't believe how excited and animated Rob Zott was about making art after making art for so long. Isn't that what we all want for ourselves, to find ourselves doing something that we're still like, I'm so excited when I want to do this again and talk about this.
Well, we get to be big kids.
I feel that coming from Barbara. I feel it coming from you. Just everything is we have endless ideas. I think right now I'm in on the cusp of making some changes about the way that I paint, and that's hard because I want to fall back on the shapes that I love, which are rock based.
Yes.
But also want to free up from those. So that's something only I can do. Somebody can't come along and say, oh, here's how to do it. That's what I mean by the inner work. But it's fun. It is
fun. And I think that's what it boils down to. It's fun when you realize, and usually it's after the fact, that you've been in that beautiful state of flow. As soon as you know that you're in the state of flow, it's done. But when you're in it, you're like mucking around, and next thing you know, oh my God, it looks like a bomb went off over here. But those little aha moments, and there's something, it's so hard to explain to somebody who doesn't create like this, but when something shifts in your work, it is, you feel it from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, and just this incredible excitement that here comes something new, and it's a long journey to keep exploring it, which is wonderful.
Yeah. I had one of those moments recently because I've been working on a commission for a client for a while now, and I did 3 different pieces. I learned a lot from the process of doing them, but one of the pieces kind of was not, she wasn't thrilled with the composition at one point. So we just kind of threw it away, and I kept working on the other 2. And so I just kind of went completely off brief, and I don't even know what happened. And it's the most beautiful painting I've ever made. And of course it's the one she wants.
Oh, where is it? You need to show
I can't show it yet because she hasn't seen it in person. She's only seen pictures. So once it gets sent to her and she gets to see it in real life, then I'll share it with you guys. But and I don't even know what I did. Like, sometimes you just get so in flow with your movement, and you stand back afterwards and you say, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah.
That's why we keep doing it. We want to capture that feeling, right? As often as we possibly can.
Did you find that there was a lot of pressure in doing a commission?
More, not so much pressure as too much thinky. So I always struggle with that. I think a lot of us do, with, the being totally free and intuitive and painting and enjoying what we're doing, and then stepping back and analyzing. And I found that the balance got shifted a little too much to analysis for me. And so that was, that led to pieces sitting on my wall for a long time, and I would come down and I'd look at them, and I would be thinking about everything, and I would want to make a mark, but I wouldn't want to make a mark. Yeah. And of course there is also the time. You want someone to love what you're making. You want it to be done in a timely fashion. You can't just take it and stick it in a closet for 6 months like you might if some other painting wasn't behaving.
Yeah. That's that deadlines, right?
Yeah. So, it's interesting. I think it's a good way to kind of mix that with your regular practice. I wouldn't want to do all commissions, but it's kind of a fun challenge too. And I like
out of your comfort zone, right?
Yeah. And, one of my friends said to me the other day that I should think about this as if I weren't doing this commission and hadn't gone completely off piece with this other piece, I wouldn't have had this breakthrough. So that's really interesting, right? So I needed that pressure, and I needed the release from the pressure to actually find that new thing.
Oh, that's an interesting comment. Yeah. I can see how that would happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you can solve the deadline program with all in good time. I totally hear you. A lot of our deadlines are very self-imposed. That's true.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we're our own bosses. And I think that's something I think about a lot too. Like when I recently went on a trip, and I took an 8-day break from Instagram. And I just said, I'm going to leave the office. That's the way I'm thinking of it. I love my office. I love it. But I thought, you know what? You need to clear your head. So I did. And because who I'm only reporting to myself.
Yeah, that's right.
That was an epiphany.
Yeah, it's freeing, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
I love it.
So where's your cat, Barbara? Don't you have a cat?
I have 2 cats, and currently they're both on our bed. Forrest is burrowed under the cushions, and Jenny's sleeping on top. So they're getting their beauty sleep. They will come out in about an hour and a half and just start getting in my face. Yeah. They are pretty darn cute.
I don't know if you heard mine last week, but last week during the broadcast, he's got a food bowl down here, and he drags his empty metal food bowl across the floor when he's trying to tell me it's time to eat. And he was down here doing that the whole time we were on the call.
Just like a little toddler, right? When you get on the telephone. Like,
and he's a fat cat. He did not need his food. He just had it in his head that the bowl was empty, and he was getting into a bit of a panic mode.
He needed your attention. So for sure. One day I will bring Forrest on. I think Forrest would be okay. Because this is his hangout. Like, I am standing in the middle of his kingdom right here. This is his table and all his stuff. Really.
Yeah. Somebody else is saying they struggle with the pressure of commissions and second guessing themselves. Yeah, I think it's a good learning tool though. So
yeah, it is. Holding ourselves accountable. Well, it's like saying, yes, I'm going to be in that show. And this particular show we're all in New York, the gallery owner has very specific requests of us about the size, the substrate, Yeah, because it's a group show that's centered on Earth Day. And
Okay.
so you say yes. And I know some of my group really were nervous about it because they don't really work that big. But it's so good for you to say, okay,
Yeah.
sometimes we need to say no, but there are a lot of times we just need to say yes.
Yeah,
And
I'm
go
a big
for it.
believer in say yes and figure it out after.
Yeah.
And believe
Yeah,
it.
if it feels a little scary, it's probably a good idea, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this was your first live. Was it scary?
No.
No, because I feel like I know you all.
Oh.
I did do one demo through the gallery that represented me in Baltimore that is now, she's moved. It was a couple years ago, and it was in Vermont during the pandemic when I wasn't in my normal studio. And that was pretty complicated, but it was a time I did think, okay, try it. But this has been such a pleasure. I really am very grateful to you for the opportunity. And I really enjoy looking at your work, and I look forward to everyone else's who's on there. I will find you.
Oh,
That's
yes.
great. Well, thanks so much for being with us. We are wrapping up, I guess. We're at 11:40 my time. I know I always talk about it in my time.
Yeah, and nobody's had a drink yet. So unlike last week.
Yep. Quarter midday.
That's right. That's right.
Well, thank you
this
so
has been
much for
great.
being with us. It's been a wonderful chat, and
So good.
Thanks to everybody who joined in and had comments and sent hearts for Rena. We will. Oh, it's your mom. Pause space is your daughter.
Yes, she is.
Oh, well, there we go. That's lovely.
She's a therapist. She's a social worker and a therapist. So I think I'm now her main, I'm definitely one of her clients. So I don't have to pay. Isn't that great?
Yes.
I'm lucky.
Well
I'm a lucky
done.
mother.
Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rena. This has been phenomenal, and it's so interesting to hear your journey. Every artist that we have on, the journeys, the backstories are so fascinating.
So fascinating.
Yeah.
Really, we all feel like we really know each other, and I guess one of my dreams is that we get together someday.
Oh,
in person.
Be phenomenal. Oh my God.
We would just be soaring with excitement if we could be together. So let's look forward to that.
Let's make a plan, honestly.
Yeah.
I think it's a necessity. I think we'll cry. I have a feeling.
It's like seeing a long lost friend.
Yes. Lots of hugs. Lots
of hugs.
Exactly.
Lots of hugs.
Hug. It will be wonderful. So
yeah,
I would love that. I have gotten to know not only Lisa, but another artist, Robin Davison, who lives in Washington. And honestly, you felt like you had just been with them the day before. It was that easy. It was just such a lovely thing. So that's been a good part of the pandemic for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for being with us today. If you're catching us late, this will be up in the replay, both on my channel and on Barb's channel later, and we'll share in stories so you can find it. All right.
Okay. Can't wait to see what you two continue to do. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week, guys.
Oh, I will.
Enjoy.
Bye.
Stay inspired.
Already on.
Now I just
already on.
punch X, right?
I'll punch it. Well, I'll close it for all of us.
All right.
That gets us out of here.